The Wanderers find Marcus Chen had always prided himself on being prepared for anything. 23 years as a geological surveyor for the Terran Mining Consortium had taught him that space had 1,000 ways to kill you, and most of them were creative about it. But as he trudged through the endless crimson dunes of Kepler 442b, his water supply down to its last few drops and his emergency beacon broadcasting to empty space, he had to admit that even his paranoid level of preparation hadn't been enough. The planet's twin suns beat down mercilessly, turning his environmental suit into a personal oven. The cooling systems had failed along with everything else when his survey pod crashed 3 days ago. 3 days of walking through a desert that stretched to every horizon, following the faint hope that the orbital scans had detected mineral deposits somewhere in this direction. 3 days of slowly dying while contemplating how spectacularly everything had gone wrong. Marcus crested another dune, his legs shaking with exhaustion. The sand here wasn't like Earth sand. It was finer, almost like powder. And it got into everything despite his suit's seals. Worse, it seemed to absorb heat during the day and radiate it back at night, making rest nearly impossible. He paused to check his readings again, though he knew what they'd say. Water, 2.3 liters remaining. Food, enough protein bars for maybe 2 more days. Power, 40% and dropping. Rescue probability, effectively 0. The consortium would eventually notice when he missed his check-in, but by then, his transponder would have gone dark and his body would be another grain of sand in this vast wasteland. They'd write it up as another surveyor lost to equipment failure, file the appropriate insurance claims, and send the next poor soul to finish his mineral survey. That was how the business worked. Space was dangerous, people died, and the universe kept spinning. As he started down the far side of the dune, something caught his eye. A glint of metal in the distance, different from the usual crystalline formations scattered across the planet's surface. Marcus adjusted his helmet's visor enhancement and squinted through the heat shimmer. There, about 2 kilometers away, something large and definitely artificial protruded from the sand like the skeleton of some massive beast. Hope surged through his chest, followed immediately by caution. Whatever it was old. Really old. The way the sand had built up around it suggested it had been here for centuries at minimum. Still, even a derelict ship might have salvageable water recyclers or emergency supplies. It was worth investigating, especially since his alternatives were limited to dying of thirst or dying of exposure. The trek across the valley floor took him nearly an hour, his feet sinking deep into the loose sand with each step. As he got closer, the object revealed itself to be even more massive than he'd initially thought. It was definitely a spacecraft, but unlike anything in the databases he'd studied. The exposed section alone was at least 400 meters long, sleek and curved like a predator frozen mid-leap. The hull was made of some kind of dark metallic alloy that seemed to shift color slightly as he moved around it, reflecting the desert's crimson light in subtle patterns. Marcus circled the wreck, looking for any obvious entry points. The ship appeared to have crashed nose first into the sand, burying at least half its length beneath the dunes. What he could see of the exterior showed no obvious battle damage, no blast holes, no hull breaches from weapons fire. Either it had crashed due to mechanical failure, or the desert had done an excellent job of healing whatever wounds had brought it down. As he walked along the hull, his gloved hand trailing along the surface, Marcus noticed something odd. The metal was warm, not just warm from the suns actually generating heat. After 3 days in this wasteland, his suit's sensors had become very familiar with ambient temperature readings, and this was definitely above normal. Either the ship still had some kind of power source, or its hull materials had properties that terrestrial science hadn't figured out yet. Near what he guessed was the ship's midsection, Marcus found what might once have been an airlock. The outer door had been buried under centuries of sand accumulation, but the basic shape was recognizable. He began digging with his hands, scooping away the fine red powder that had drifted against the hull. The work was exhausting in the heat, but desperation gave him strength. After 20 minutes of frantic excavation, he'd cleared enough sand to reveal the outline of a doorway. The surface was perfectly smooth, with no obvious controls or mechanisms. Marcus pressed his hand against it experimentally, then tried knocking. Nothing. He was about to start looking for some kind of manual release when the metal beneath his palm suddenly felt different. Warmer. Alive. A soft blue glow began emanating from the contact point, spreading outward in concentric circles like ripples on a pond. Marcus jerked his hand back in surprise, but the process continued. The circles expanded, formed complex geometric patterns, and then the entire section of hull simply faded away like morning mist, revealing a darkened corridor beyond. Marcus stared at the opening, his scientific mind racing. Smart materials were one thing. The consortium used programmable hull plating on some of their newest ships. But this was something else entirely. The transition had been seamless, almost organic in its smoothness. Whatever race had built this ship, they were working with technology that was centuries ahead of anything humans had developed. He checked his suit's atmospheric sensors, scanning the air inside the ship. The readings made him blink in surprise. Not only was the atmosphere breathable, it was actually cleaner than the recycled air he was used to aboard human vessels. Oxygen, nitrogen, and trace gases in proportions that would make any life support engineer weep with envy. Taking a deep breath of faith, Marcus stepped through the opening. The moment he crossed the threshold, the hull reformed behind him with a whisper-soft sound that spoke of technologies beyond his understanding. Panic flickered through his mind for a moment. What if he was trapped? But then lighting activated throughout the corridor, bathing everything in a warm, golden glow that was easy on the eyes. The corridor was clearly designed for bipedal, beings roughly human-sized, which was encouraging. The walls were lined with what appeared to be information displays, though the symbols and patterns meant nothing to him. Everything was pristine, as if the ship had been built yesterday rather than centuries ago. No dust, no corrosion, no signs of the slow decay that claimed all artificial things given enough time. Marcus walked forward cautiously, his boots making soft sounds on the deck plating. The corridor branched in several directions, but he could see that the ship extended much further than the portion visible above ground. This wasn't just a crashed scout ship or cargo hauler. This was a massive vessel that could have housed thousands of beings. "Hello," he called out, his voice echoing slightly in the perfect acoustics. "Is anyone here?" For a moment there was only silence. Then, from everywhere and nowhere at once, a voice answered him. Not through speakers or communication systems, but as if the ship itself was speaking. "Greetings, human. I was beginning to wonder if your species would ever find me again." Marcus spun around looking for the source of the voice, but there was nothing to see. "Who's speaking? Where are you?" "I am the Keeper," the voice replied, warm and patient like a teacher addressing a curious student. "I am this ship, and this ship is me. We are integrated in ways your current technology cannot yet achieve. As for where I am everywhere within these walls. An artificial intelligence." Marcus relaxed slightly. At least it wasn't some unknown alien species with unknowable motives. "Your ship crashed here. Are you damaged? Do you need assistance?" The AI, the Keeper, seemed to find this amusing. "How wonderfully typical of your species. Stranded, dying of thirst in an alien desert, and your first concern is whether you can help someone else. No, Marcus Chen of Earth, I am not damaged. My presence here is quite intentional." Marcus started at hearing his name. "How do you know who I am?" "Your suit's identification beacon is quite informative. Also, I have been monitoring human transmissions for some time now. Your species has become much more interesting since last we met." "Last we met? Humans have been here before. Not here precisely, but members of your species and my creators have a long and complicated history, one that your current civilization seems to have forgotten entirely." The corridor branched again ahead, and Marcus found himself drawn toward what appeared to be a central chamber. The Keeper's voice followed him as he walked. "Tell me, Marcus Chen, what do you know of humanity's origins among the stars?" Marcus shrugged, though he realized the AI couldn't see the gesture. "Same as everyone knows. We developed spaceflight about 4 centuries ago, started expanding beyond the solar system 2 centuries back. We're one of the younger spacefaring species in the galaxy. Most of the other races we've encountered have been traveling between stars for millennia. Is that so? The Keeper's tone carried what Marcus could have sworn was amusement. And who told you this history? It's common knowledge. The Altarian Collective was already a major galactic power when humans first achieved faster-than-light travel. Same with the Vegan Republic and the Centauri Federation. We learned most of our early star travel techniques from them. Marcus entered the central chamber and stopped in amazement. The room was enormous, with a domed ceiling that rose at least 50 meters above his head. The walls were covered floor to ceiling with what appeared to be data storage devices, millions of crystal matrices glowing softly in organized patterns. At the center of the room stood a raised platform with what looked like a control interface, though the design was unlike anything he'd ever seen. This is the archive, the Keeper explained. The most complete record of galactic civilization ever assembled. Every species, every world, every significant event in this sector of space for the past 50,000 years. Would you like to know what it says about humanity? Marcus approached the central platform, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. I imagine it's pretty short. We're newcomers to galactic civilization. On the contrary, the Keeper said, and suddenly the crystal matrices around the room began displaying images, star maps, ship designs, architectural plans, faces of beings that looked unmistakably human but dressed in clothing and technology that seemed ancient, yet incredibly advanced. What am I looking at? Marcus whispered. The truth that the current galactic powers have spent centuries hiding from your species. Humanity is not young, Marcus Chen. You are not newcomers. You are the inheritors of the greatest civilization this galaxy has ever known. The images shifted, showing vast cities that dwarfed anything humanity had built in the modern era. Ships that could have carried entire populations between stars, technologies that made current human science look like stone tools. And everywhere, humans. Clearly, undeniably human. This is impossible, Marcus said, though his voice lacked conviction. If humans had this kind of technology thousands of years ago, what happened to it? Why don't we remember? Because forgetting was the price of survival, the Keeper replied, and the images changed again. Now they showed war, fleets of ships engaging in battles across multiple star systems, planets burning, entire worlds rendered lifeless. Your ancestors built an empire that spanned half the galaxy. They were explorers, scientists, philosophers. They shared their knowledge freely and welcomed other species into their confederation as equals. Marcus watched in fascination as the historical record unfolded before him. Humans working alongside dozens of alien species, building wonders together, pushing the boundaries of science and understanding. It was inspiring and heartbreaking at the same time. But power corrupts, the Keeper continued, even among those who start with the best intentions. Some of the species your ancestors had helped began to resent human leadership. They formed secret alliances, convinced themselves that humans were holding them back rather than lifting them up. The war, when it came, was swift and brutal. The images now showed the systematic destruction of human worlds, the targeting of human populations specifically while leaving infrastructure intact. It wasn't conquest. It was genocide with an efficiency that made Marcus's blood run cold. Your ancestors faced a choice, the Keeper said. Fight to the bitter end and take most of the galaxy with them, or find another way to ensure their species' survival. They chose survival, but at a terrible cost. The final images showed human survivors scattering to the far reaches of space, their advanced technology deliberately destroyed or hidden, their historical records wiped clean, ships carrying refugees to distant worlds where they could start over as primitive colonists, hoping that someday their descendants would be strong enough to reclaim their birthright. Earth was one of those refugee colonies, Marcus breathed, understanding flooding through him. Indeed. Your evolutionary development of intelligence was carefully guided by genetic modifications your ancestors made to ensure rapid adaptation. Your discovery of agriculture, mathematics, and eventually space travel followed patterns programmed into your very DNA. You were designed to rediscover your heritage when the time was right. Marcus sank onto a nearby seat, his mind reeling. And you think that time is now? I know it is, the keeper replied. Because you found me. This ship has been waiting here for over 3,000 years. Its sensors scanning the desert for one specific genetic signature. Not just any human, but a human descended from the original archive keepers, the guardians of galactic knowledge. Your DNA carries the authorization codes needed to access these records. Around the chamber, more displays activated, showing star charts that Marcus somehow found familiar despite never having seen them before. Trade routes that made intuitive sense. Ship designs that seemed to call to something deep in his genetic memory. The other species know this day would come, the keeper warned. They have monitoring stations throughout this sector, watching for signs that humans have rediscovered their past. Even now, they are likely detecting the energy signature of this ship's awakening. They will come to destroy me and you both before this knowledge can spread. As if summoned by the keeper's words, Marcus's suit sensors detected incoming spacecraft. Multiple signatures, moving fast and definitely not human in origin. His heart raced as he realized the implications. How long do we have? 17 minutes until they reach orbital insertion. 23 minutes until they can begin surface bombardment. Marcus looked around the vast chamber, his mind already working on the problem. This was what humans did. They solved impossible problems with whatever tools they had available. Can this ship fly? After 3 millennia buried in sand? Unlikely. But it can do something better. What's that? It can upload the entire archive to your suit's memory banks and transmit it to every human ship, station, and colony in the galaxy simultaneously. But only if you're willing to carry that responsibility. Marcus thought of his wife Sarah back on Mars, of the children at the academy where she taught, of the millions of humans scattered across dozens of worlds, all living their lives unaware of their true heritage. They deserve to know the truth. They deserve to understand what they really were. Do it, he said without hesitation. The download will take 15 minutes, the keeper warned. And once it begins, there will be no hiding what we've done. Every human in the galaxy will know their true history within hours. The other species will not take this revelation kindly. Good, Marcus said, settling into the interface chair. It's about time they learned what humans are really capable of when we stop holding back. The ancient truth. The data flowed into Marcus's mind like a river of liquid fire. Not just information, but memories. Genetic memories locked away in human DNA for 3,000 years, now awakening like flowers after a long winter. He saw through the eyes of his ancestors as they built the first galactic senate, as they shared the secrets of faster-than-light travel with primitive alien species, as they established trade routes and cultural exchanges that lifted entire civilizations from barbarism to enlightenment. Humanity hadn't just been part of galactic civilization, they had been its architects, its teachers, its protectors. The ancient humans had possessed technology that could reshape matter at the molecular level, could heal any disease, could extend life for millennia while maintaining youth and vitality. They had built ships the size of small moons and cities that floated among the stars like jewels of light and crystal, and they had given it all up rather than see the galaxy burn. The approaching fleet is entering the atmosphere, the keeper announced calmly. Vegan Republic ships, heavily armed. They're broadcasting standard excavation codes, but their weapons are powered up. Marcus could feel the download progressing, vast libraries of knowledge pouring into his consciousness. Star maps that showed the real galactic power structures, technological specifications that revealed how far ahead ancient humanity had been, and most importantly, the locations of other hidden archive ships scattered across the galaxy. 13 minutes remaining, the keeper said. The Vegans are moving to surround the crash site. I'm detecting weapon signatures consistent with plasma bombardment systems. Can you communicate with them? Marcus asked, though he could guess the answer. They are not responding to hails. Their mission is clearly to eliminate all traces of this ship and its contents. Marcus stood up from the interface chair, the download continuing automatically through his suit's connection ports. Then we need to give them something else to think about. He moved to what appeared to be the ship's sensor controls, his newly awakened genetic memories guiding his hands across unfamiliar interfaces. The systems responded to his touch as if recognizing an old friend, and suddenly he could see everything. The approaching Vegan ships, their weapons configurations, even the individual crew members aboard each vessel. "What are you doing?" the keeper asked, curiosity evident in its voice. "Something they won't expect," Marcus replied, his fingers dancing across controls that 3 hours ago he wouldn't have even recognized. Humans might have forgotten their history, but we never forgot how to think creatively. The ship's sensor, array still functional after all these years, began broadcasting on every frequency the Vegan fleet was monitoring. But instead of the historical archives or proof of humanity's ancient heritage, Marcus transmitted something much simpler and much more effective. Human music. Not just any music, but carefully selected pieces that told the story of human culture. Classical symphonies that spoke of beauty and complexity. Folk songs that carried the weight of shared experience across generations. Modern compositions that showcased humanity's artistic evolution. And with each piece he included contextual data, the historical periods when they were written, the emotions they were meant to convey, the cultural significance they held. The Vegan fleet's formation wavered as they received the transmission. Marcus could see their confusion through the ship's sensors. They had come expecting to find dangerous ancient technology, and instead were being serenaded with Mozart and Wu-Tang Clan. "That's actually quite clever," the keeper admitted. "You're demonstrating that modern humans, despite lacking their ancestors' technology, have achieved something equally valuable: cultural sophistication and artistic expression. The Vegans pride themselves on their artistic heritage. They won't want to be responsible for destroying a species capable of creating such beauty." 8 minutes remaining on the download, Marcus noted, watching the Vegan ships hold position. "Think it'll be enough? Perhaps. But their commanders are under strict orders to prevent this knowledge from reaching human space. They may decide to risk the cultural implications." As if on cue, the lead Vegan ship began powering up its primary weapons. Marcus could see the energy readings climbing steadily toward discharge levels. Time for Phase 2 of his plan. He activated the ship's external projectors, using them to display the images the keeper had shown him earlier, but not the technical specifications or star maps. Instead, he chose the pictures of humans and aliens working together, building wonders side by side, exploring the universe as partners rather than competitors. The message was clear. This is what we were. This is what we could be again. The Vegan. Weapons powered down. "Incoming transmission," the keeper announced. "The fleet commander wishes to speak with you." Marcus activated the communication system, and a face appeared on the central display. The Vegan was tall and angular, with the silver-scaled skin and large dark eyes typical of his species. When he spoke, his voice carried the formal cadence of military authority, but Marcus could detect uncertainty beneath it. "Human vessel. I am Commander Zethvar of the Republic Fleet. You are in possession of classified historical materials. Surrender the data and prepare for extraction." Marcus looked directly into the alien's dark eyes. "Commander, I'm just a geological surveyor who stumbled onto something amazing. Before you destroy it, shouldn't you at least look at what we've found? Your people pride themselves on being scholars and historians. Don't you want to know the truth?" The download progress indicator showed 90% complete. Just a few more minutes. "The truth," Zethvar said slowly, "is that some knowledge is too dangerous to preserve." "Is it?" Marcus asked. "Or is it too dangerous to those who benefit from keeping it hidden?" There was a long pause. Marcus could see the other Vegan ships holding position, waiting for their commander's orders. The download reached 95%. Finally, Zethvar spoke again. "What you have discovered changes nothing. Ancient history cannot alter current realities. Humanity remains a minor species in galactic affairs." "Maybe," Marcus agreed. "But we're also the species that invented jazz music, built cities in impossible places, and figured out how to make pizza that tastes good, even in zero gravity." We're the species that looks at a problem everyone says is unsolvable and says, "Hold my beer. What do you think we'll do when we remember what we used to be capable of?" Download complete. Marcus felt the knowledge settle into his mind like a missing piece of himself clicking into place. Star charts that showed the hidden routes through space, technical specifications for technologies that could revolutionize human civilization, and most importantly, the locations of 17 other archive ships scattered across the galaxy. "It's done," he announced, standing up from the interface. "The information has been transmitted to every human ship and station in the galaxy. By tomorrow, every human will know their true heritage." Commander Zethvar's expression shifted from authority to something approaching fear. "You have doomed your species. The other races will never allow humanity to reclaim their former power." Marcus smiled, and there was something ancient and confident in that expression, something that spoke of genetic memories awakening across an entire species. "Commander, you're about to learn why our ancestors were able to build a galactic empire in the first place. It wasn't because we had the best technology or the biggest ships. Then what was it? We never knew when to quit." The Keeper began powering up systems that had lain dormant for millennia. "Marcus Chen, there is a maintenance shuttle in Bay 7. It is programmed with coordinates for the nearest archive ship. If you can reach it before the others awaken, you can begin the process of reclaiming humanity's birthright." Marcus was already moving toward the indicated corridor. Behind him, he could hear the Vegan ships powering up their engines, no doubt preparing to report this development to their superiors. Above him, the buried sections of the ship were beginning to emerge from the sand as ancient gravitational manipulators came online. As he reached the shuttle bay, Marcus paused to look back at the chamber that had changed everything. "Thank you," he called out to the Keeper. "Thank you, Marcus Chen of Earth. For the first time in 3,000 years, I have hope for the future." The shuttle was sleek and obviously designed for human operators, though it incorporated technologies that made human engineering look primitive by comparison. As Marcus settled into the pilot's seat, systems activated automatically, responding to his genetic codes. Through the shuttle's viewports, he could see the Vegan fleet retreating to a safe distance as the massive archive ship continued rising from the sand. Soon it would be fully operational again, a testament to what humanity had once achieved, and a promise of what they could achieve again. Marcus engaged the shuttle's engines and lifted off into the crimson sky of Kepler 442b. Below him, the desert that had nearly claimed his life was already receding into memory. Ahead of him lay the stars, and a galaxy that was about to remember why humans had once been its greatest hope. As he set course for the coordinates the Keeper had provided, Marcus smiled. The other species thought they knew what humans were capable of. They were about to learn how wrong they'd been.